Okay, so moving on from the rigging, going into painting, I've got him rigged up how I like him and everything. Now, if you haven't watched the tutorial I created based on painting skin, just to kind of understand it, that's kind of what I'm going to be doing here. I may go pretty far with it. I just don't want to bore you in terms of me sitting here trying to get it perfect. But I didn't do any of that. I just binded to the skin earlier. So I'm going to go over here and select the actual geometry. And paint the skin weights. There we go. So now you can see where all this naming convention mumbo jumbo we did really came in handy, because now I know exactly what I'm looking at. I did know that my feet down here were, I was moving my foot controller and it was given the vertexes on the other foot, which doesn't need to happen. So just to kind of go in and let's see, make sure. See, there's some white over here, so I need to basically replace that. Values of 0. I don't need those over there. Can't get it working. Get a switch over that, but I can't get my brush to start working on me. Always something. I can't get it to work at all. Wow. Is it the value? Do I have everything correctly done? Reset it. It's on interactive. I'll turn it off. Go back to interactive. There we go. So back to where we were. This null shouldn't have anything to do with anything, so this toe right here should have nothing to do on this toe foot right here. That one right there should have nothing to do with this foot over here. And you can see I'm kind of working myself on up here. I'm not worried about the overlay on these right here right now. I just kind of need to make sure that I'm fully vested on one side of the body. And you remember our component editor where you can go and kind of type in values? Could do it that way too. These are looking pretty good here for right now. Let's go and make sure these are looking good. A little bit over here. Get rid of that. Get rid of the null, I know. See no point why the null needs to be in there. This is what I like to do, a very quick overview of it, then kind of go back and then start fine-tuning it, which usually has a lot to do with the fingers, because they're so close together. The biggest thing what I'm doing through here is just making sure all my values are located kind of around the joint, in other words. So I'm going to go up down the spline joint 1, spline joint 2. I really shouldn't have nothing to do with the head there. It shouldn't affect anything over here. Spline joint 3. Since he is a robot, I really don't want him on the head that much. I want the head joint being the head joint. See, these eyes, for some reason, since it was connected, is affecting it. Which I could go find my head joint and just make sure this is 100%. Head. I need to turn this brush down so I don't overlap stuff. So when you thought the rigging part was done, it's not. This is a never-ending chore. Trying not to bore you. Keep in conversation. Here we go. You'll be able to see a difference here in a minute just with some of the movement in general. Zero. And especially since you have downloaded this rig, if you've downloaded this rig and have rigged up this guy here, kind of a little understanding. See, I've got some of the head joint way over here. I don't know why. But this is the time to create and take care of all this stuff. Which basically I could go and select the vertexes and do this really fast in the component editor, but sometimes I get lucky. Cool. Now moving on to the hands. Left shoulder. I want to write these out down here. Now your body will kind of bend whenever your shoulder kind of bends, but I don't want that much. Keep him pretty robotical. See any more white? Elbow, wrist. The wrist should affect all of this, basically. Or I'm sorry, the hand should be kind of split on it. You could do your hand joint for right here. But you want that wrist being affected. So you can already see some of the movement from maybe in the past if you just connected it like that. Already starting to look better. See, I still got a few weights there to pull, but it's not as bad as it was, I can tell. So now it's just about fine tweaking it with the painting of the weights and everything. And that could take, you know, as long as you need to kind of fine tune him. That's why I suggest, try to make a robotic character, because basically I could select him and basically separate out a joint for a piece of geometry. In other words, the hand only controls this hand geometry. This elbow joint will only do this geometry right here. And then he would start to move very mechanical. Like there would be no kind of bends in the skin or anything like that. You wouldn't see it, depending on your texture too sometimes. So yeah, have fun with it. This is how this is done. And like I said, download the free rig or the free model and have fun with it. Kind of follow along. And this not only sets it up for this model in general. I mean, I just made this up after looking at some methods and some ways I found online too, and it kind of works for this model. You can obviously experiment with what you want to do in terms of how you want to make your rig, especially if it's got other appendages and other arms and legs coming from different directions. You never know. But I found it most successful with the IK setup for the legs, and then the FK for the arms and the spine, and keeping it as simple as I can, and then catapulting from there whatever character you may have. So, but this will get you started in terms of understanding rigging. But I appreciate you watching the series, and if you got any questions, just reach out. Thanks a lot.